Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I'm sorry I missed you all yesterday. I'm back now, and that's the important point moving forward. It's a new week, it's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a really important time in crypto. I know a lot of people are feeling very slumped. We've got a lot of negative stuff kind of unfolding in the LUNC community, and the markets are overall being played with. And what I mean by that is BTC goes up a bit, it goes down a bit, it goes up a bit, it goes down a bit, it goes up a bit, it tracks sideways a bit, it comes down a bit, it goes up a bit. Meanwhile, the whole entire market is bleeding. Obviously, we've got those assets that haven't been bleeding. One of those assets for me definitely is VSG. This thing is an absolute ticking time bomb. It's like a silverback gorilla, just juiced up, ready to go every single time. So what I want to do is kind of give you guys the lowdown on what's happened with Telegram before we dive into the rest of this video. There is an exploit on Telegram. I've known about this for a long time. It's not something that's new, and I think a lot of people will know about it. I'm going to leave a link to this article, and what you need to go in and do is disable the auto loading features when you're in groups, private chats, and private groups. It's very important you do this because there is an exploit as to which someone can drop load a file. Your phone will automatically download it, as to which they can then get access to your device. If you're a Mac user, apparently they can get access to your webcams and different stuff like that. This can all be prevented just by following this news and kind of just reacting to it. It's nothing crazy. You've not been affected. You would definitely know if you have, but it's a way to kind of prepare yourself and just be aware that there's scammers absolutely everywhere waiting for you to slip up like that. So I'll leave links to that in the description. And without further ado, let's talk about the man himself. And DK is going to be the biggest talking point for, I would say, the remainder of the halving. This guy is just going to be at the forefront of everything. SBF's been sentenced to, I think, 25 years. DK's the next guy, and I think CZ is going to be getting slapped with something, not as bad as everybody else, but I think that's coming. We all know that. We'll cover it when it lands. Now, what I've been saying to everybody recently is he's got a ledger. More specifically, he's got a Trezor that he put up his butt when he was arrested, and he has that Trezor, so he has access to funds. And what I've been saying is going to happen is he's got a legal team, and he can merely keep himself in perpetual motion. He's on house arrest at the moment. Now, as to that being the way it is, he's not going to be able to get access to the internet, otherwise he would have done it by now. And the likelihood is this house arrest is not a house per se, it's probably shared accommodation for criminals that are in the same boat as him and kind of in perpetual motion. Now, he can just keep these appeals going back and forth. So one minute they're going to say he's going to South Korea, the next minute they're going to say he's going to the United States. The current stance is the prosecution in the United States are gaining solid grounds to signal more or less to Montenegro that they want him. And that he needs to come to the United States, especially with the unfolding with the court case, them being found guilty. So let's bring up this article, which goes into a bit more depth, and I'm not going to bore you with the top end of this article. What I'm going to say is about the jury basically finding Kwon himself liable for fraud in the US. And what we need to understand is South Korea have had a big portion of the pie. They got the other guy that DK was traveling, which was Mr. Honsoon, I think his name is. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments there, guys. But my perspective still remains the same, that the SEC are going to get DK extradited to the US. There's a lot of political sway on this. There could be backhanders. There could be all sorts of different things. But ultimately, as a political weapon, DK is a very good weapon to get on your tool belt if you're someone like Gary Gensler. Because more or less, you can actually learn a lot from this guy, on top of being able to charge him, use him as a patsy, so to speak, and parade him in front of the United States and all of the different people that are kind of against Gary and go, well, hey, look, here's this guy. He's done all of these illicit activities. We've proven that they're guilty. We've proven that they've committed fraud, and we've dealt with it. And this could be what Gary needs to more self keep himself in the position that he's in. And I think this is all going to be relevant stuff moving forward. So how long do I think this back and forth thing could go on? I think it could go on for like another year. I honestly think it could just go on for as long as he can pay solicitors to keep finding holes in these extradition charges, so to speak. It's not a complex thing for them to do because they can simply just keep appealing it. There's like no limit to these appeals really when you keep back and forthing. So the US extradition request, I think, is eventually going to get through. I think South Korea is going to concede to the idea, and I think they're just more or less going to admit to themselves he needs to go to the United States. Even if he has to go to the US, then they extradite him back to South Korea and he's charged in America, then in South Korea, and then he serves his long-term jail sentence in one of the two respective countries, so to speak. And they could do a thing where they run them in parallel, so to speak. So they could even make him serve a sentence in South Korea, then extradite him to the United States and have him serve a parallel sentence over there and not run them consecutively. Because if they run them consecutively, well, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but you get the gist of it at this point. So another thing to point out here, just as we're closing into the end of this video, is price action. It's a very interesting time for LUNC. We should have really respectively seen a substantial dump. We all know we should have seen a very big dump across board for LUNC, USTC and Luna. And I think this goes to show that everybody that's involved currently is not willing or wishing to leave. Now, what we do need to understand is a lot of people are diamond-handed long-term holders of this blockchain. We are seeing an amount of undelegations happening. And what that kind of signals to us is people are kind of getting panicky. People are kind of worrying, is this something I want to continue to be involved in? Is this something I could get out of now? Should I make a decision? And people have become indecisive. And I think what's going to decide if those people truly do end up going through those undelegations, undelegating and leaving the blockchain, if there's no real kind of good consequential news, which is going to point the way, so to speak, and kind of say, well, this is where we're heading. These are the tools we've got. This is what we're planning to do. And this is how we intend to move forward. It's going to be a really interesting time. But once again, we have not seen any kind of substantial movement upwards or downwards. And it is peculiar. You have to admit it's very, very peculiar. So let's jump over to LUNC Dash quickly. Now, the delegations had got above 1 trillion. I think they were almost at 1.1 trillion. We're now down to 972 billion LUNC stake. So you can kind of get, once again, the gist of what I'm kind of pointing at here and kind of saying to ourselves, well, we've got all of these long-term holders. The likelihood is we don't have a lot of people that are just going to dip in and out. And I think we're down to a very core community, a very core user base and a very core validator base. So it's going to be interesting, like I said, to see how this pans out and see how those who have chose to undelegate react once those undelegations come through. But what everybody needs to be prepared for is more undelegations, possible downtrends moving forward. But then at the same time, everybody needs to remember is this was once a community-led chain. And it can be again. And all that needs to happen is the voting power needs to move over to validators that support the community, support the vision moving forward. So one more final thing just at the end of this video. It's a really interesting time to see the usage of the KYC system preventing validators from developing, and that's just not the case. The validators are not developing because they didn't get paid a paycheck, and we cannot expect them to continue to work for free. And that's the reality of it. Nobody's pushed anybody away. No proposals have got in place that have pushed a load of people away. It's not happened like that. It's merely a money situation for all of these people. Now, this time next month, we'll be very close to the 2-year mark. Imagine working on this blockchain for 2 years for free to get absolutely nothing, to expect nothing, to get to a point where you're like, okay, let's apply for a paycheck, and then they get denied. And it's kind of a real big kick in the nuts for these guys. Now, I personally believe if Vin and the L1 were to propose again, I think they would pass. And I think the same for the LUNC development team. They're all KYC'd, as we've seen before, apart from Einon Man, but I've got my own kind of like bones to pick with the Einon Man character, and I could do a pretty decent long video just kind of diving into the mystery behind who Einon Man is, so to speak. But once again, looking at my own paper here, it's a situation where we need to rope those developers back in. That's my personal belief. They've left because there was no payments. Okay, let's introduce a payment. Let's get them working. Let's get one working on tax to gas. Let's get one working on Astroport to get that fixed again. And let's not leave ourselves in perpetual motion, because as DK keeps himself in perpetual motion, as he appeals this thing back and forth, right? He keeps TFL and he keeps Luna in perpetual motion as well. They've also been slapped with a guilty verdict. So once again, they're all in this same boat now, where they're all kind of looking at each other and now they're thinking to themselves, well, do we need a new development team? Do we need these guys? Can we afford a new development team? Yeah, we can afford a new development team. So these guys are already thinking about jumping boat. You know, they're already sold to the idea of getting new developers and starting to walk that path. And once again, I laugh, I scoff, and I say to myself, good luck. Good luck getting that 100, I think it's 130 active set. I think it might be lower than that. I'd need to check. But good luck getting them all to agree to a development team they don't know. They don't have a vision. They've got no real kind of like solid plan. And they're just kind of like doing bug fixes and updates for a little bit of money here and there. And I'm really excited to look at it all through the looking glass from our side and see them in the same boat that we are. And hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll figure it all out. Maybe they'll get a crack hot development team and maybe they'll continue to push forward. But who knows? This is crypto. You never know what's going to happen. It's all interesting stuff once again, guys. And it's all stuff to pay attention to. But once again, take everything with a pinch of salt here. I'm not a financial advisor, not a technical analysis advisor. I'm just a guy giving my opinion to you guys. Other than that, I'll get more content out. I'm working on building a new computer out at the moment, so sorry for the lag in the video, sorry for the drop on everything, and sorry if the quality's overall not that good at the moment. Guys, I really appreciate if you're new here, subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment, hit the notifications bell, and yeah, just stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.